Mavs Nation holding its breath this morning. What's the outlook for Luka?
Yeah, so he's going to have an MRI this morning, and what they're going to do in that MRI, Tony, is determine whether this is a grade 2 ankle sprain or grade 1. If it's grade 2, and I've seen a lot of things over my NBA coverage career, 17 years now. If it's grade 2, I don't know. I think that's probably curtains for the series. But if it's grade 1, if he was able to avoid that more severe ankle sprain, it brings in the chance he could play sometime in this series. The issue with him is that he has that history of ankle injuries on the other ankle, on his right ankle, which caused him to miss 11 games earlier this season. And so you get worried with the Mavs about a compensation injury. So a lot of things to worry about. Obviously, there's tomorrow's game 3. That's the least of the concern. It's more about whether he could come back later in the series. So that MRI today will tell us a lot, but it was a very scary injury. I've seen a lot of things covering this league. I have never seen a guy turn his ankle that badly and come back within 48 hours, but Luka is very tough.
Well, hopefully the results are not as bad as others hope it's not. Game 4 of the series is Sunday at 3:30 Eastern. Brian, hold on. Now, another takeaway from following Game 3 playoff P. Paul George is off to a subpar start through 3 games in these playoffs. He's been a trigger for many of his critics, especially after shooting 3 for 16 from the field, including 1 for 8 on three-point last night. Here's what George had to say about his playoff slump.
I'm no James Harden. I'm no, that's not my knack is to shoot the ball and score the ball. I can, and I pride myself on being effective on both ends. But it's going to be nights like this where I just can't make a shot, and I can't allow that to affect my game. I think people get so caught up with what other people think. I'm Paul George. I don't care to be anybody else. I am who I am. You either love it or you don't. Simple as that.
This was PG's 13th straight playoff game, shooting under 25% from the field. His 8 career postseason games shooting under 25% are actually the 3rd most in the shot clock era, with no other player from this century making this list. Matt?
All right, Tony, I would imagine by now Celtics fans are much happier with Kemba Walker than they were of Kyrie Irving. We'll get to clutch Kemba in just a moment. Joel Embiid had everything good going early in this one. Game 3, Celtics Sixers dominating down low. Then a little turnaround, bucket foul, 22 points, 10 rebounds in the first half. First 76 with 20 and 10 in the first half. Since play-by-play started to be tracked in 96-97. Under 2 minutes left in the fourth, Embiid gets double-teamed, tries to throw a cross-court pass, ill-advised, picked off by Marcus Smart. Pick 6. Jaylen Brown brings it back the other way. Huge momentum shift for the C's. Listen to Smart on the late defensive play.
That's me just being me. The best defensive player in this league that I know I am, that my teammates know I am, and opponents know.
All right, so Brown would make the free throw. Celtics lead by 1. Embiid gets the feed, drives, swatted by Jason Tatum, headed the other way. Refs checking for a clear path foul. One of Tatum's career high 4 blocks in one game. Have another look. Richardson's foul sends Tatum to the line. 2 shots. Celtics get the ball. Tatum hits 1 of 2 free throws. Celtics lead by 2. That was a big point in this game. Then Kemba. How clutch. Team high. 24 points. Celtics lead 98-94. Under a minute left. Richardson gets the feed. Misses. That thing was shot to a small world. Wasn't even close. Sixers struggled in the last 2:13 of this game, and because of it, second consecutive season, the Celtics have a 3-0 lead in a playoff series. And at this point, it's the pride of being swept. With 2:14 left in the game, Embiid made 2 free throws to give the Sixers a 94-92 lead, but Philly would not score the rest of the game, going 0 for 4 from the floor. As the Celtics closed the game on a 10-0 run, Sixers now trail 3-0, and no team, the stat by now, has never overcome a 3-0 deficit. Windy standing by back with us. Brett Brown said after the loss, his team recognizes the daunting task ahead. Statistically, not going to happen. So if the Sixers, as we expect them to, lose this series, how will this team be remembered?
Well, whether they win a game or not, it'll already be remembered as one of the most disappointing teams of the last 20 years. I mean, this was a team that they could legitimately say they were a Kawhi Leonard bounce on the rim away from maybe being in the finals last year, and who knows what would have happened. And they were in position to, when Kawhi Leonard left the Eastern Conference, in position to be there with Milwaukee to try to own the future of the conference. And instead, the changes that they have made to this roster, where in an era where everybody is going smaller, faster, and more shooting, they went bigger, slower, and less shooting, and then invested over $400 million into contracts for these players last summer, essentially marrying this philosophy. It's been a disaster. And I understand that Ben Simmons has had injuries, but even when Ben Simmons was out there, it was not executing well. And so I don't think there's necessarily bad people involved with the 76ers. They've just made a series of bad decisions, and they are now in the worst position that you can be in, Matt. They are an expensive average team. And they're going into an offseason where people don't want to take on money because of the current economic situation. They are in a quagmire. It is very disappointing for the 76ers and their fans, and they are headed, whether they like it or not, for another bit of processing to get this fixed.
Windy, I understand this is unfair to ask this of you. It's completely speculative. Do you envision a change at head coach? Is this the last we've seen of Brett Brown?
Well, I will say that I think Brett has his messaging within this playoff series has been very strong. He has tried to keep a stiff upper lip and tried to keep them going. The reality is the pieces don't fit together, and before you change all-star pieces, before you break this up, you are likely to change the coach. So the expectation throughout the league is that there's a good chance there's going to be a change in Philadelphia. And again, it's not all Brett's fault. It's some of the fault of the decisions and some of the fault of the way the players are fitting together.
And you nailed it. When you spend that type of money on a team, expectations come along with that. They just have not met those. But lucky for us, Brian Windhorst, as always, the expectations are here, and he delivers every time. Wendy, thank you.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.